There's too many of you. Brother, brother, brother. There's far too many of you die.
We just started. Did y'all didn't get that?
We started. It was kind of in and out. It was the sound.
Choppy.
I'll fix it on the edit. You guys go ahead and start. Ladies and gentlemen, Law and Money. Started. Did y'all didn't get that? Hold on right quick. There's kind of
in and out. It
yeah, there's a feedback. Hold on. I'll fix it on the edit. You guys go ahead and start. Ladies and gentlemen, Law and Let me find out right quick.
Okay, just tell me, just say go, and we'll start.
Ladies and gentlemen, Law and Money.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Law and Money with attorney Douglas Oden and financial advisor Michael Allen. We're still broadcasting remotely due to the coronavirus and practicing social distancing to the max. My co-host Michael, hey, he's hunkered down. I got a good-looking new haircut there, son.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm here at my office. Of course, we're continuing our discussion of what's going down in the country in terms of the aftermath of the nationwide civil protests stemming from the murder of George Floyd, and the surge of the coronavirus cases and hospitalizations all across the country. I remember last week, the last time we broadcast, Michael, I said, you know, we reached 115,000 deaths in the country. And that was on June 14th. And here it is, June 28th. And now it's almost 126,000 people.
Wow.
I mean,
that is amazing.
That's like in 2 weeks, over 10,000 folks have died. I mean, can you imagine, 3,000 folks died at 9/11. 10 days, we've had 3 times that many folks die. So it's credible. But let's say it, for folks, who are new to the show, we welcome you. And let me tell you a little bit about myself, and Michael will tell you a little bit about himself. I am a law partner in the law firm Oden Green. Been practicing law going on 42 years now. My practice is primarily civil litigation, personal injury. We are the oldest San Diego law firm in San Diego County. We do bankruptcy and consumer bankruptcy. I was the former president of the California Association of Black Lawyers and the former president of the Earl B. Gillum Bar Association. That's a bar association that represents the interests of African-American judges and lawyers in San Diego County. And for 6 years, I was president of the San Diego branch of the NAACP. Michael, tell the good folks about yourself.
Doug, before I get started, happy birthday, young man. All those accolades and another year of celebration of life. How about that?
I appreciate that. Celebrated the big 7-0. Hey, I thank God
we would have never known. We would have never known. My sincere congratulations.
All right.
That is awesome. And privileged to know you and work with you for over half my life. So, but me, I'm Michael Allen. I'm a financial advisor. My firm is Allen Financial Advisement. We're located in beautiful La Jolla, the UTC area of La Jolla, where a lot of things are going on. And a little bit of background about me. I've been in the financial services industry for, close to 30 years. My practice has been around the last 20 plus years. I'm also an adjunct professor at National University, where I teach business and finance on both the graduate and the undergraduate level. And of course, with my practice, I help businesses and individuals set and achieve their financial goals. So Doug, we got quite the show today. We have turned from law and money to what's going on in the world. So tell us about it, man. That coronavirus is really touching so many different people.
It has really, came back, it never left. But when the governors, they took a calculated risk and said, well, let's open up. We losing money, folks are being laid off. We got to get the economy going again. And they made a calculated risk thinking that, well, if we do it, it may not be so bad. Well, guess what? They lost that bet.
Okay, well, everything flows from the top. And it started with our current administration. And the current administration, they will deny anything negative and try to claim credit for anything positive. But this is one they cannot get away from, because the coronavirus, they were warned well in advance of when it first hit the United States. It not only hit the United States from the Pacific Rim, but it also hit us from the European or the Atlantic Rim. And that's why it hit New York so hard when it first got here. And now, you notice that the coronavirus is surging in red states. Governors, Republican governors, they bought into the Trump-Pence campaign, and they said, okay, it's okay. Everything's going to be all right. And look, I would be the first one to tell you, they lied to you. They lied to you. And so, some of the effects of opening too soon is now you see the surge. Ron DeSantis, and he's the governor of Florida. And I heard one political pundit call him Ron Disastrous. And how he got that well-earned title, I'll never know. But he is the governor of Florida, and he never really put in the lockdown credentials that say Cuomo did in New York, or they did in Connecticut, or in New Jersey, or even in Illinois. And so now you're seeing the repercussions of that. He left the beaches, the bars open. He, relaxed everything. You had one young lady, look, she says, I don't want to wear a mask. And she got on television and she actually said this. She said, the reason I don't wear a mask is the same reason I don't wear underwear. And some things have to breathe.
Well,
so your thoughts along those lines?
What's interesting is this. New York, when New York was at the epicenter, everybody was clowning New York, saying how bad New York was and this and that. And the people in Florida are saying, yeah, we don't want them folks from New York coming to Florida. We'll keep them folks away because they're going to infect us. And now it's the other way around. New York saying,
exactly.
No, don't y'all coming from Florida because you guys are going to infect us. I mean, it's a calculation. Trump is so desperate. He's so greedy that he wants to be reelected at any cost, and he will take anybody down with him. And some of the governors, they were, DeSantis was, he was the first one to be with him, and I'm down with you, Trump, all the way. And now he's starting to see the writing on the wall. He's looking at the polls. He's saying that Trump is taking a hit, and all of a sudden now he's concerned. He had that big press conference today. Now we should wear masks. Now we should close the beaches. That horse has been out the barn, ran down the street. It's too late. I mean, it's so incredible when I look at Trump, and I was thinking today, I said, he will go down in history as the worst, if not one of the worst president in U.S. history. I mean, unequivocally. He may not, so I'm sure his supporters saying, nah, that ain't true. But if you look at everything he's done, I mean, he has had so many scandals, any one of which would have killed off any regular president. I mean, we forget how bad he was when you start thinking about the Muslim ban, the caging of children, this whole smear, everything about him, morally bankrupt. His staff was just incompetent. He's incompetent, can't even answer a question. Sean Hanley gave him a softball, pitch he could knock out of the park. Well, what you gonna do in the next? What's your plan for the next year? Leadership. He could even answer the most simplest question. The man is ridiculous. I mean,
well, he's given the United States a black eye all around the world. I mean, have we ever had a point in our history as a country that other countries, Europeans said, no, you can't come here if you're from America. If you're from America, Russia, or Brazil, you cannot come to this country. And the one thing that those three countries have in common is the fact that they are all led by autocratic leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so now this is the black eye. This is the bed we made. And now we have to lay in it, at least for what, 6 more months or 5 more months?
Oh, please. Before, man, November, please. I've never been so anxious for November to come around. I like summer. I'm ready for fall.
Let's hurry up and get there.
Hurry up. I don't need this. I mean, it is such a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
so, here's the thing, is that with this current administration, they want us to focus on the shiny object. Trump will create something controversial to put in the news, but the first thing we have to do is get this coronavirus taken care of. So we have to not pay attention to the shiny object. Rachel Maddow, she said it best. She says, watch what they do. Don't listen to what they say. And so really they are doing nothing. And I repeat, nothing about the current coronavirus. And so now it is happening that all of the Trump pundits and his followers are paying the price. The increase of the corona virus, they say, is due to testing. No, it is not due to testing. Think about this. There's a pregnancy test out there, right? Is that because of the increase in babies? Because they do pregnancy testing?
I'm telling you.
So that's what the administration wants you to believe. And some people actually buy into it. And, I run into a lot of people on a daily basis, not physically, but I talk to them. And that was the first thing that came out of this young lady's mouth, is that, oh, that's because of the testing. And being a teacher, I had to set her straight that it's not because of the testing, because the testing can also bring about negative results too. We can find good things from the testing as well.
Right, they never say that. Right.
Yeah.
If it was flattening, there'd be a whole bunch of negative tests. And also, just think he wants to cut the testing. He can slow down the testing because there's too many cases.
He said that to his fans in Oklahoma, right? Okay, look, we need to cut back the testing. I told him to slow down on the testing, and his administration said, "Oh, he was joking." And here it is. He cut the rope on the administration and say, "Hey, I wasn't joking. I don't joke." He doubled down on his own administration. So it's hard to protect someone like that. And, the other thing that's going on is that the virus is also seen now in younger Americans. And so, but that is not necessarily a good thing. They're trying to let you know that, oh, well, the numbers are going up because of the increase in younger Americans. No, The virus is going up because we have relaxed standards in America. That's why the virus is increasing.
Well, Michael, think about this. If you got young people, you remember back in the day, about 50 years ago, I was kind of in the 19 or 20-year-old range. And when I was 19 or 20, I was out, boyfriend, girlfriend, you trying to hook up with someone, you trying to kiss and hug and stuff. Now, these young folks who don't believe in the virus, you think they stop kissing? You think they quit doing, what grown folks do?
Right.
And what easier way is it to pass the virus than a smooch? And you never hear about it. You never hear about it. It's the same folks who don't want to wear a mask. They believe in the virus. You can believe they're gonna do what regular teenagers and young adults do.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're human.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm not surprised that the rate of infection with young folks continues to rise, because you're talking about you can get it, breathing droplets from 6 feet. You can get it from a kiss.
Oh man, they say a cough can travel 20 feet.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it's mouth to mouth, transmissions.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't heard no one say on the air, y'all shouldn't be kissing. Have you heard it?
Wait now, is it the moral majority conservative?
Yeah, right.
I'm waiting on Jerry Falwell to come out and say that, right?
Yeah.
But we're on our way back, Doug, to closure of many states. You see Arizona, Texas, Florida. They're all trying to now start to close down the state. Being in Texas, their situation is horrendous in Harris County, one of the largest counties in the country. And, they're at 100% hospital capacity now. And that is horrible. And so you have the mayor going against the governor, and now the governor's starting to buy in. And so, all the work that we did in the early parts of the pandemic are being erased now.
Now, you remember back when New York was having their big epicenter problems, and the Army Corps of Engineers putting up these temporary hospital beds and stuff? I haven't heard none of that.
No.
In these other areas where they're reaching capacity, no one's ever said, let's, build a shelter so we can put more beds out. I think that once again, they got the word that we don't keep a lid on it, because these houses, when they get to capacity, where are they gonna put them?
Right. Well, I don't know if you heard what's going on in Arizona, Maricopa County, right? They're at max capacity there. So now what they're doing is they're starting to airlift people to parts of California. They're leaving they're leaving Maricopa County, going to places like Calexico. Now Calexico has hit max capacity, and now they're airlifting them as far north as the Stanford Medical Center, up in the Bay Area.
Boy, that's not cheap.
No, it's not. But this is the price that we pay for taking that ostrich approach, because these governors, they stuck their head in the sand. I mean, the governor of Arizona, he hired some people from Utah to do the testing rather than have the two largest medical facilities in the state of Arizona, both Arizona State University and the University of Arizona, do the statistical tracing on the testing to show you where the curve was going. They said, okay, we're going to outsource this to Utah, and we're not going to use that information. As a matter of fact, we're not going to even share any of the information that we have with you. So now look at the repercussions. Their curve is not flattening, it is rising. And it is rising at an epidemic rate, not a pandemic rate, but an epidemic rate. There's cause for alarm because so many people have been hit in Maricopa County than any other part. Now, that only stands to reason because that is the largest county in Arizona.
And I'm just straight up, you know, they do these things for political purposes. They don't want to go against the trend. The Republican playbook is let's play it down. It's because if we play it up, the Democrats are going to pounce on us. I suspect that come November, there may be a sea change in this country. And,
wow.
And I suspect it's going to be a lot of folk because at the way that this trend as it's going on now, it's not going to get better because folks, they just don't, it's hard for them to be disciplined. Americans have such a short attention span. You tell folks, look, you got to hunker down. And if you hunker down, if you do it long enough, like these other countries did, they hunker down for a month or two, let the curve get flat. Italy and all these other places, now they begin to open up and they haven't had a recurrence. But Trump was so anxious, I got to get reelected. We got to get the economy coming along. So I may have a ghost of a chance to win reelection. And he didn't care. And
well, not to go out of sequence for what we had outlined, but you raise a very, very good point because Trump is falling behind in so many different battleground states. I mean, I have a list here, Texas and Georgia, he's ahead by a point and a point and a half, respectively. Now, those are states that really, if you're a Republican, all you got to do is show up and raise your hand and you won that state. And here it is, it's within the margin of error. Pennsylvania, he's trailing by a tenth of a point there. North Carolina, another one of those states that's been, voting Republican for the president. Even Florida with Ron DeSantis there, he's behind in Florida, Arizona, and the two big battleground states that he has to win is Wisconsin and Michigan. He's behind by 6 points in Wisconsin and 7.5 points in Michigan. So, here it is. You ask these Republicans that are avid Trump supporters, is this the hill that you want to die on?
Mm-hmm. Now
following him.
The poll you read was the most conservative poll I ever seen. I'm probably happy. Is that all? Because the polls I read said he was behind in Georgia, behind in Texas. I mean, so you like your poll. I'm a head off point there, please.
I would love to be wrong. Okay, I would love to be wrong.
But I think at some point, even the most staunchest Republicans are going to look and say, especially with this last thing that just rolled off the press with this Russia situation, where the Russians put a bounty out on American soldiers, paying the Taliban to kill American soldiers and other allies. And they said that the president knew about it. He claimed he didn't know about it, but someone in the White House knew about it. And he said, well, they didn't tell us. Now, what in the heavens is going on when you got a national defense industry, you got Security Council, and you're saying, I didn't hear about it. They probably put it in the Daily Brief. And of course, he don't read. The only thing he reads is his tweets, and he can't spell in his tweets. And you're telling me that your defense secretary, your national security advisor, ain't gonna put him, hey man, the Russians are paying to kill our men, then he said, I don't know. I think he's lying in the first place.
Well, he's lying, and I know he's lying, but the fact that he is not a reader gives him plausible deniability. That's the only time it's ever worked for him. But I've heard Susan Rice and I've heard John Bolton say that there is no way No way in heaven that he did not know this. So he can deny all he wants, but the fact remains is that there's a greater chance of him knowing than not knowing. What president in their right mind that claims to be avid supporters of the military does not know that there's a bounty on there?
Right.
Now, Speaker of the House, she comes on board and she says, why focus on him not knowing? Let's focus on what is he going to do about it.
Right.
Because he still wants Russia to come be a part of the G7. So, hey, that's okay. That's okay, Mr. Putin. Don't worry about the bounty. It'll be the G2, me and you.
Right. And then he unilaterally withdraws troops from Germany.
Opens the door for Putin.
When you look at the big picture, you got to think, who is he for?
Yeah.
I mean, there's that group of Republicans, the Lincoln Project. It's commercials. Oh man, I mean, you're talking about some devastating commercials about Trump.
I love them.
I think the latest one they put out was like, and Trump supports the troops, and they said, well, whose troops?
Yes, whose troops?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see how the Republicans react to that. At some point, because you got all these hawks, you got this Tom Cotton individual. Have you checked him out?
Yes, he's the senator from Arkansas.
Right. I call him George Wallace 2.0. He's gonna run for president in 2024. He's setting it up, and he is a racist. He's the epitome. When he talked about DC statehood, things he said about DC statehood, basically saying y'all ain't nobody, y'all can't govern yourself.
Well, I don't think he wants that Black Lives Matter avenue. That's what he doesn't want, okay? But I do, on a separate note, I'm all for DC statehood because, they get taxed just like regular citizens, in the state, and there's taxation without representation. Right. Isn't that what America was founded on?
Well, it's just political. If DC was a Republican stronghold, it had been state a long time ago.
I know. I say give them one senator and one congressman. Yeah.
Everybody else got two. Rhode Island got two. They got four folks in Vermont. Give them two.
Yeah.
I said bring Puerto Rican in. Give them two.
Well, now and I know. Then all they're gonna do is throw paper towels at Puerto Rico.
Hey, I got much love for Puerto Rico. Bring them in. I don't like these second-class commonwealths and all that stuff.
Right. They actually have something to add to our GDP, whereas a state like Kentucky takes more than what it gives.
They're afraid of democracy. Republicans love democracy when they win, but they hate it when they lose.
Right.
Sometimes you're gonna win. Sometimes get the right ideas, you win.
Yeah. So now here's a good question for you, and that is, when we look at, Trump leaving office, you had mentioned earlier that he's possibly a Manchurian candidate, which I can't deny that. But will he go with the scorched earth theory, where he just destroys everything during his lame duck session?
But I want to pass him to pardon anybody, his old boys Stone and Flynn. If Flynn somehow, if he's already off the hook, but any of his boys who are still in jail, he'll probably pardon them. But I think, you saw how he looked when he got off that helicopter.
That was a perp walk, wasn't it?
After the rally. That sorry excuse for a rally. He looked like he just snuck out the hotel late at night, the no
Yeah.
hotel, late at night. That's how you look when you're leaving the hotel. That's the way he probably looked on November 3rd. Hoping, you know. I don't know, he's such a vindictive person. So I
This is
wouldn't
true.
put anything past him.
Well, you notice he's fired attorney generals, not attorney generals, but inspector generals.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's gotten rid of them. Anybody that's ever gone against him, he's found a way to get rid of them. So, I mean, if the country goes against him, he might try to find a way to get rid of the country.
You never know. I mean, with William Barr,
Mm-hmm.
and as a lawyer, it's so distressing to see what this man has done.
So what should we do with William Barr?
Well, the problem is the clock has run out. You can't do nothing to him. You can't impeach him. I mean, that takes too long. It's a waste of time. Come on. You go through all the rigmarole to impeach him. The Senate's not going to do anything. So why even try?
Right.
All you can do is expose him.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he has any sense of morality, because when you see Justice Department attorneys come out and testify and just, basically dog him out in public, I've never seen that before.
No.
I've never seen sitting attorneys putting their career on the line to call out their boss. And in no uncertain terms saying, hey, he gave favoritism to Stone because Stone was Trump's boy,
Right.
And so all you can do at this point is expose him, and then maybe, public, shame may slow him down because you really can't do nothing to him.
Well, I think that's necessary to expose him publicly because you also may expose some additional deficiencies, with the Trump administration. Because again, you ask yourself this, is a judge worth it? And, the leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, he will appoint a judge if that judge has a pulse and, he's conservative.
Oh, yeah.
And what they're trying to do is set the tone for when they're in the grave, for when their grandkids are walking, this earth. That's what they're trying to do. So if we get a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, I think there should be term limits on judges, on these federal judges.
That's an idea time may have come because it's the way he packed the court to the extent, 200 judicial appointments.
Right.
And when the Democrats were in office, they are trying to be fair and nice. Well, let's see what the other side wants. Let's see, we want to get someone who's not too extreme. We'll get someone who's kind of down the middle. Republicans don't give a hoot.
No, they don't. They will hold on to power at any cost.
Right. No, and I don't even fault Mitch McConnell for playing hardball. I just wish that once the Democrats, if they ever get back into the majority, do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be trying to put the nicest, they put a moderate in. They didn't put any moderates in. I mean,
no.
Yeah, so,
Look, they had, this is one of the judges that didn't get appointed. They tried, this guy, he wrote some papers, some white paper op-eds that were straight out of the Stephen Miller, KKK white supremacist book. And they still tried to appoint him.
Yeah.
And it just took the one Republican senator to stand up and says, wait a minute, what is this? I can't stand for this. They had somebody in Louisiana, that just came out blatantly and, announced herself as a racist. So now she makes a contribution to the Trump campaign. Guess what she gets? A lifetime appointment as a judge. So no, I think that, they say, well, we don't want to look like a banana republic if we start to prosecute the previous administration. Well, this case, I'd start with Trump and prosecute him. I'd get to Barr, prosecute him. I'd get to Mitch McConnell and I'd prosecute his wife, Nancy Chow, for she's the head of the Department of Transportation. And, she has amazing deals done with China, whose father is a shipping magnate in China. Wow. And she's head of the Department of Transportation. That alone should cause herself to recuse herself from any dealings with China. But I'd definitely look into it. You talk about weaponizing the Justice Department. My Bill Barr would raise a new bar. Okay.
All right. Well, look, I'm telling you that's something. Yeah, because there was a little scandal about her, and then all of a sudden it went real quiet.
Right, because the Inspector General that investigated her, guess what? He's no longer the Inspector General.
He got ousted.
Uh-huh. And you talk about Barr. Now, when they sent Michael Cohen to jail, okay, so now they sent him to jail. Barr comes in, takes over the investigation, and he footnotes Michael Cohen's sentence and says, there will be no further investigations into this, even though individual one wasn't fully investigated, and neither was any of individual one's staff. And of course, individual one is Donald J. Trump, and so now he, all of a sudden, all the people that worked for him in the Trump administration, I think even his kids that had something to do with that Michael Cohen prosecution, now that was shut down. And then they even had precedent that when they got Mike Flynn off the hook, boy, oh boy, this is one from a law perspective that you have to tell me, how did they do that? How did they get Mike Flynn off the hook?
I have never seen a case where a guy pleads guilty, not once, but twice. And then after you pled guilty, then the prosecutor comes back in and says, oh, well, we should dismiss the case. It's like you won the game. And all of a sudden you said, well, no, we won the game, but no, we don't want the victory.
No, we don't want. But what they did was they circumvented the judge and went directly to the appellate judge without this particular judge even rendering a decision.
Well, yeah, I mean, the judge said, look, y'all got to tell me why you decided to, change your mind. And then the judge hired a retired judge to look into it. And the retired judge said, this is ridiculous. There's no basis for doing it. I mean, the man lied. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I pled guilty under oath, because when they usually ask you, they say, when you plead guilty, they say, are you pleading guilty because in truth and fact, you are guilty and for no other reason? And then you say yes. Okay. Now you go back and say, no, I was lying when I said that. Well, if you lied when you said that, isn't that perjury?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I mean, the Trump administration has to be the most corrupt administration ever. I mean, they make Nixon look like a choir boy.
Now, weren't there two Trump-appointed judges in that appellate court?
Yeah, it was a 2-1 decision. Yeah, see, he's starting to, reap the benefits of all those appointments. But sometimes you can go what's called en blanc for your non-attorneys. That means they can ask for a review, not just for the 3-judge panel. They can ask for all the judges in that circuit to take a look at it and render. So it's usually 11 judges. So, they have to get 6 to overrule. So I don't know if they're going to go, if they're going to ask to have it reviewed en blanc. So,
Uh-huh.
so we can.
So there is hope, in other words.
Yeah. There's a lot of other things. I mean, the judge can still say, "Look, all right, my bad. Now let's talk about this perjury charge."
Mm-hmm.
So,
Because when we look at it, as a black man, African American, depending on when you were born and what part of the country you were born in. In Chicago, we were black people. I get to California, we're African Americans. So as a black man, the Department of Justice should be, or has always been, our last bastion of hope. That we want something that's fair and equal. Now, we know it's tough to get because a lot of times the police department, they will be judge, jury, and executioner. But if we get into the court system, that's the last bastion of hope. And Barr has just totally destroyed, the rule of law.
well, yeah. Well, the thing is, hopefully, his reign of terror will end once again on January 20th.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 2021. Remember how we was cheering when 2020 came in? Lord, we're going to cheer that. We can't wait for 2021. I mean,
Whoa, it is something. And I just mentioned the fact that, the police is taking it upon themselves to be judge, jury, and executioner. And my applause to our guests from last week, Ms. Evenette Powell and Ms. Brittany Allen. That was a very powerful show because it brought to light a lot of different perspectives that we don't see. And there's one, Elijah McClain. I'm sure you've heard of him, where he died in police custody. And it was such a sad case because the guy didn't do anything to anyone. He was just looking to them what they would call suspicious.
Walking like. I mean, that was another lynching, another extrajudicial lynching by the cops. I mean, the young man, just a little guy, and talking about, you look suspicious. Come here, boy. You're wearing a mask, walking down the street. Now, come on. If you're up to no good, you're not gonna be walking down the street with a mask on. I mean,
no.
This was pre-virus,
Yeah.
You just get cops who, number one, have as soon as they see a black person, they think the worst. If they saw a white kid walking down the street with a mask on, they say, "Oh, it must be cold outside."
Yeah.
But a black kid, "Oh, you're a criminal." Or someone called and said, "Oh, we see somebody walking down the street looking suspicious." Suspicious is not a reason to stop somebody,
Well, you ask yourself, have you ever heard of anemia? And anemic people get a little colder than other people.
Yeah.
And so the guy, he was anemic. He went in, paid for his groceries. If he was suspicious, wouldn't he have just took the groceries and ran? Man, it just really. I'm sorry?
The people at the store didn't call.
No.
He was sweet and nice kid. He was walking home. The only reason they killed him because he was black and walking down the street with a ski mask on in the wintertime.
So now tell me this: is it a crime to get arrested or to look suspicious? Is that a crime?
Only if you're black.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The law says you have to have a reasonable suspicion of some criminality to even approach the person. All these folks talking about y'all freedom and all that. Yeah, we, freedom to be left alone.
Yeah.
Walk down the street and the cops say, "Hey, how you doing?" Well, yeah, I'm fine. Keep stepping. They have to have some articulable facts to believe that there's some criminality for them to stop and detain somebody.
I mean, it is. One young lady asked me, she says, why do they hate us? You know, and that could be a rhetorical question, but I think it's a very pertinent question. You know, why do they hate us? And will there ever be an answer?
Well, I don't think there are a segment of the police department who are out and out racist. Straight
Mhm.
up, dog, KKK, yeah, let's go hurt some black folk. And then there's another group of folk who just culturally, when they see a black person, they're scared.
Mhm.
Because they think because of the stereotypes, they think every black person's a gang member or something. So they're taught to, act in a aggressive manner, and let's take control of the situation. And if
But
and
isn't that the pure definition of systemic racism?
absolutely, absolutely, it is total, and I think white folks are finally beginning to understand that systemic racism is real, that the
Mhm.
so bias that police officers have, the fact that you got training, that they look at police, they see the worst of folk, they see a person and they assume the worst, you're up to no good. I mean, there was a great show on TV. If anybody get a chance to see it, The Undefeated on ESPN last week, where they had the sportscasters talking about, some of the happened to their kids and stuff, being accosted by police. And it's a great show. If any of you get a chance, if you got those on-demand TV shows, go to ESPN and check out The Undefeated this last week.
I will check it out.
Yeah, absolutely incredible show. Yeah. So yeah, it's a, you know, and one last thing I would say, I must admit, I am so proud of the young folks out there protesting,
You and me both, my friend. You and me both.
because there is power in protest. I know some folks, I'm tired of seeing these folks walk around and yelling and screaming. That gets results. And I was just thinking, since George Floyd, sacrificed, his life was sacrificed by that cop and killed him and murdered him. Look all the changes that have happened. Affirmative action in California is going to be put on the ballot to repeal Prop 209, which basically outlawed affirmative action. You got police departments dismantling and redesigning their police departments. They're tearing down these old racist statutes. If the city council doesn't remove them voluntarily, the young folks are saying, "What the hell is that?" Tear
Yeah.
them, because
They lost. Why would you put up a monument to somebody that's lost?
and lost and a traitor and a slave owner.
Uh-huh.
Not only tear them down, burn them, and get rid of them.
There you go.
And like I said,
A lot is going on, in that particular area. And I am with you 100%. I am a fan of the young people, stepping forward and taking the mantle, to end some of the atrocities that we have faced. Because, when we think about, our forefathers that marched in the South, we're standing on their shoulders. And because we're able to stand on their shoulders, we're able to provide, proper education, food, shelter, and health for our young people. And in turn, the young people are grabbing the mantle and they're stepping forward today. Now, I am not a fan of looting. So I don't want to see any looting, but I am a fan of the barriers that have been broken by our young folk to go out there and make friends, with other people, other races. It is great to see an Asian person holding up a sign that says Black Lives Matter.
absolutely.
And to see white people holding up signs that says Black Lives Matter. And, the conservative, right-wing people will try to change the narrative. Don't all lives matter? Don't take it out of context. You've been treating us as Black people as if our lives don't matter. So we have to remind you that they do.
Right.
That's what Black Lives Matters is all about. Not the
Absolutely.
fact that all lives matters. You've been treating us as if our lives don't matter. So let's get it straight. As Obama would say, stay woke.
Yeah, you know, it kind of reminds me back in the 60s, 1968, you know, when I was 18 years old and marching, you know, they had the big peace marches and stuff where folks was in the street protesting the Vietnam War. And that generation of young folks were, you know, were out there. And then it seemed like there was another generation that was kind of too laid back and, you know, a little bit too
Mm-hmm.
materialistic, you know, it's just that me generation type thing. And now it looks like this next set of youth is a throwback to those that activist route. And I applaud them. You know, I may not agree with everything they do, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna sit back and say, well, you know, everybody ain't right. You know, I'm not right all the time. You may not be right all the time, but your heart is in the right place. You're trying to make changes. You know, these young kids are now looking at and say, look, you know, we no more racism. It's not enough just to be I'm not a racist. You got to be an anti-racist. You got to be able to
Exactly.
call it out. You know, and I think it's up to white folks to call out white folks
Mm-hmm.
when they see some racist stuff. It ain't up to us to be telling white folks, oh, that's racist. It's time for white folks to tell white folks, nah, that ain't right. You know, and I think
Right.
they're doing that. I think that's when
You
they're
know,
saying Black Lives
people like you and me, we don't have anything to prove because, we know what's in our heart. And sometimes, that is self-evident that, we judge people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And, just because you see somebody walking down the street, with a ski mask on and they're black, oh, they're suspicious. Just because you see somebody standing in Starbucks waiting on their friends and they're black, oh, they're suspicious. Or just because you have someone waiting in the lobby of their own hotel and they're black, oh, they're suspicious. So we're going to call the police on you. I think that is a bunch of bull.
Oh yeah, you know, that's the old systemic racism. Folks, they oh no, I'm not a racist. I was just being, if you see such, say such. Nah, you're a racist. Straight
Hmm.
up, So yeah,
Or they, here is what I get into a lot of political arguments with some of my Republican friends, and they always come up with the whataboutism. Well, what about two wrongs don't make a right, first of all. And that is not the topic of discussion that we have at hand. The topic is this, you know, you have people that are emboldened by this administration to come out and do things to harm other races. I mean, even when Trump was running for election, you had little kids, little high school kids, they were playing a basketball game and they ran out on the basketball court to the Hispanic kids, go back to your country. And these kids all of them were born in Indiana. They just happened to be of Hispanic descent.
right.
You see, Trump has emboldened that. And,
Mhm.
that's what puts the poor taste in my mouth. The kids in cages, he's emboldened that it's going to be accepted behavior.
Right.
So if he loses office, I say prosecute him, tear down the wall, and lock up Stephen Miller.
Well, on that good note, brother, I think we've come to the end of our allotted time.
Uh-huh.
I once again, it's always a pleasure to hang with you, good brother, because
Yeah.
and who knows, in a couple of weeks, we have no idea. I hope the death toll is not another 100, another 10,000 folks dying, because a lot of them are black folks, and a lot of them are white folks, whoever. Human
Hmm.
beings are dying because of this virus. We ask folks be safe out there. You know, practice wear your mask, practice social distancing, and see if we can defeat this bad boy. Because If not, it's gonna hang around because the virus don't care. The
That's
virus
right.
Oh, it says, yeah, y'all want to be fools? Come on, fools. I got something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
It
that's
is.
our audience for listening to us. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, God willing. You listen to Law and Money, with attorney Douglas Oden and financial advisor Michael Allen. Have a good evening. Thank you.
And happy birthday again, my friend.
All right.
All right.